In last year's race, we saw 7 constructors finish in the top 10. That is not something that you normally see. This is turn 1. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Jeremiah.
And we're going to be doing a preview of the 2024 Canadian Grand Prix. So we're going to start by going back in time, looking at 2023, which was far more chaotic than I think we remembered.
Yeah.
As we were watching the highlights of the race, it all started to come back to us. We're going to go through that. We're going to look at the track, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, I think, and then we'll go into a little bit of our predictions towards the end. Let's start with last year's race. You had Max Verstappen as the pole sitter, which for this time last year, this is middle of the season-ish last year, kind of early, still in the first third of the season. I mean, he was running away with it already by that point.
Yeah.
But who was sitting second at the start of the race, right off the jump? Who was second?
At the start, Fernando Alonso.
Right.
Well, if you want to get technical.
There it is. I was hoping you did.
If you want to get technical, at the end of qualifying, you had Nico Hülkenberg in second, starting second. However, because of dang impeding, he started fifth.
Hülkenberg in his Haas. Maybe they had just rolled up upgrades, or
There was rain.
Yeah, there was rain, but maybe they did something because this was, I think, post Monaco last year, and that's when a lot of teams were rolling out upgrades. He qualied second in a Haas.
Sweet.
And he can't keep it there, so he drops down to 5.
Yeah.
You got a 3-place penalty. So you had Alonso second, and you had Hamilton third. Right off the jump, though, Lewis Hamilton just immediately takes out Fernando Alonso and gets second place.
No, it doesn't take him out.
Takes out his position.
Yeah, so Lewis Hamilton immediately takes second, and then George almost takes third.
Yeah, just doesn't quite get it done. And then you had Ocon in 5th in an Alpine?
Oh, yeah, he does to get the move done on Hülkenberg. Eventually he moves up to 5th. That's right.
So the race start is chaotic. There's not a lot of crashing or anything. It's just a lot of overtakes and battling for position. But as the race goes on, you start to have these battles and you start to have these accidents. And I can't remember the exact order, but I think the first major event is George slapping a wall. Is that correct in my timeline? And it's not the Wall of Champions. It's the chicane in the middle of the circuit, 6-7-ish, turn 6-7, maybe 3-4. George slaps a wall, loses his front right wing, destroys his back right tire. Safety car comes out. The dude limps back to the pits and is able to return to the race.
Temporarily.
He goes like 40 laps before they come on and they say, George, you got to retire the car. And that's after he worked his way all the way back up into the top 10. So you had that. What was like the key battle in that race? There was of course at the end with Norris and all that, but who was the one in the middle that they were going back and forth? Was it Alonso and Hamilton?
I mean, that was a big battle for second place going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to talk about key battles, we saw some at the very beginning. First of all, Alonso had to get back around Hamilton, so for the entirety of the race, it was just those two going back and forth. And that's always fun to see because you have 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton and 2-time champion Fernando Alonso behind, 3 at the time champion, no, 2 at the time. Max
2.
What is he on right now? This is his
He's
4th.
1-3.
He's running for his 4th
Yeah.
right now. Okay, so at the time he was a 2-time champion. Max Verstappen in the lead, 7-time Lewis, 2-time Alonso. And Alonso and Lewis are battling it out for second. That was so exciting to see because you know these guys have been going at it since 2007 when Lewis first entered the dang league.
On the same team, right?
I think 2008 they were on the same team. I
Okay.
don't think it was 2007. I could be wrong on that.
So the other bit of news, though, throughout the race is you have Kevin Magnussen with 2 issues, actually. Kevin Magnussen earlier in the race just runs wide off the track. But then a little bit later on, he's battling Nick De Vries. Yes, folks.
Right.
That's right. Nick De Vries was on track in the AlphaTauri. Nick locks up.
Yes,
going into a turn?
So they were battling it out pretty good, I guess. Nick De Vries kind of shoved Magnussen off, and then a little bit later down the track, a couple turns later, Nick is on the inside. They're going into a turn. Nick De Vries tries to go late on the brakes, locks up the tires, and Magnussen, who's on the outside, can't turn in, tries to turn in, just slaps the side of Nick, and they both go flying off the track. And at that point, did either one of them DNF?
I remember they got back out there. No,
No, so
they
I
both
guess
finished.
yeah. So they both just got back onto the track, which is wild.
The only two that didn't finish were George Russell, who had his technical issue with his car
And you're
after they
never gonna
replaced
guess
it.
this one.
Logan Sargeant,
Yeah.
as they come on his radio and there's like Logan retire the car, and he
So
pulls
something
off to
like
the
critical
side.
message or something like that. It's like, yeah, the critical message is you're terrible.
But Magnussen and De Vries did end up getting lapped. So the race goes on, and how we conclude was actually probably the craziest part of this race because you have Lando Norris, who does have a 5 second penalty. Keep that in mind. But battling, I think, for seventh at the time because he was trying to catch up to Albon, who was in seventh, but Ocon was right on him in eighth. So much so that they're going around the final turn through the Wall of Champions chicane, and Lando runs wide off track, loses the spot to Ocon, proceeds to drop one or two more spots before the race ends, and then his penalty kicks in and drops him all the way down to 13th.
He drops one spot to Ocon, finishes behind Ocon, then a penalty, I guess, is immediately enforced, dropping him 2 spots. Wait, more than that? Way more than that, because Oscar finished 11th. Lando finished like 13th.
Yeah, he finished 13th.
Yeah, okay. You have the stats pulled up. Yeah, so Lando finishes 13th. Oscar Piastri finishes 11th. And up in the battle where Ocon and Albon were, you have Albon finishing 7th, their second points finish of the year, followed by Ocon. Lance Stroll moves up to 9th, and Valtteri Bottas, who finished just outside the points, now finishes in the points, making it 7 different constructors in the top 10, which is wild.
And we actually started the race crazier. We started the race with 8 constructors in the top 10, but because McLaren lost that 10th spot and Oscar finished 11th, there's now 7 that finish in the top 10.
Yeah, and I guess it still would have been 7 because even if Lando had finished where he was, that would have knocked Valtteri out, which was the only Alfa Romeo. So, I mean, the fact that Lance Stroll snuck in there as the second Aston Martin, I believe there was only 3 teams that finished with both of their drivers in the points.
Well, you had Red Bull, Ferrari, and Aston.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And of course, if you're looking at today's F1 2024, could be wrong on this, but I have the feeling that it's a lot of the top 4 or 5 teams getting both of their drivers in the points most weeks. I don't feel like we have 7 or 8 constructors running.
No.
I definitely know we don't have 8 constructors running in the top 10 for the majority of the race, which the majority of this race, we did have 8 constructors in the top 10 for the first 40 or 50 laps before George's safety car, I feel like for sure. And then it got a little chaotic.
You know what? We do have 7 typically. Because it'll be Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, and then you'll typically get a Hulkenberg and a Yuki in there.
Typically, I don't know about that.
I mean, it's pretty common. Hulkenberg and Yuki are putting in some good points.
They don't have that many points.
Jeez. And now Alpine's starting to make a comeback.
Oh, boy. Okay. Your race finishes, of course, Max wins. Alonso does secure the second spot. Hamilton comes in third. And then you have the Ferraris, Checo, Albon, Ocon, Stroll, and Bottas gets a top 10 finish, which he hasn't. Has Bottas gotten a point all year this year yet?
Alfa Romeo hasn't gotten a point this year.
Yeah, ouch. Okay, so.
Or I guess they're now stake.
Yeah, stake, Sauber, kick, F1, whatever. So let's look at this track. I think, okay, from both a race watching perspective and an us driving this on a video game perspective, I think Canada is highly underrated.
Really?
Don't you enjoy driving this track?
I enjoy, yes, I do. There's not a lot of action, I would say, as far as like...
Hang on. Not a lot of action in terms of overtakes?
There's 13 turns.
But think about how we just watched that race and how every single turn had action at it.
Yeah, the race is hectic as far as action in terms of the cars, but I meant like as a driver, open track, it's just you on the track. I mean, there's not a lot going on. I mean, they have goodness here. You have 90-degree turns. You've got a nasty hairpin at 10. You have these long straights, 11 straight into the chicane that's almost like Monza style that goes right into the Wall of Champions, and then that run up to turn 1, which is also another straight. So it is fun to drive. It's not like technical, I would say, in terms of like a Suzuka or like a Jetta.
So, okay, let me give you my perspective then. You have 4 four, one, two, three, four, five. You have 5 sets of chicanes that are all the quick turn, either right, left, or left, right, left. All like the Monza, end of turn, like turn one chicanes. So you have that at 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 13, 12. Those are all dive bomb opportunities. Not to mention the massive, that's got to be the biggest hairpin on the F1 circuit, right? 10? Turn 10 has to be the biggest hairpin.
The biggest?
Like, it's huge, and it's like a legit hairpin. I mean, it's a 180.
Biggest, I want to say, is like China.
I don't know if I'd call the spiral a hairpin, though. Oh, it does have a hairpin, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has a hairpin in it.
Yeah, maybe that one. But anyways,
but it's a massive hairpin.
It's massive. And then even last year, you see like Lando Norris dive bomb his own teammate at turn 10. And there's risk and reward, because if you dive bomb there, you're on the inside line, so you're slower exiting. But if you cut the guy off and now you've made them slow down, you have the better exit and you're out ahead. I think there is so many places for drivers to make very Kevin Magnussen-like aggressive moves on this track.
The move here is to get a banging exit coming out of 10. That way you have the long straight leading up to 12 and 13. They put 11 in there. There's no turn there. It's a kink.
It's a kink.
It's a kink in the straight. And
if anything, the bend coming out of 10 should be a turn.
Right. I see what you're saying. But so 10 to 12, which in reality is basically just a straight with minor kinks. If you get a good exit coming out of 10, then you have the full run up going into 12, dive bomb 12, and probably even actually get the overtake done before you get to 12. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a DRS zone from 10 to 12. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't think
13 to 10.
I don't think the DRS is activated though until after 11 though. I don't think you get it out of 10. I think it's after the kink in 11 when you're on that straight where the wall's right next to you to the left.
Yeah.
I think that's where you get the DRS, and then you take off going towards 12 and 13. So there's, like Thomas said, plenty of dive bomb opportunities here, and we see it every single year that they run in Canada. It's fun. It's fun to watch as far as action.
And it's fun to watch. And even if you're taking away the dive, so say that there's no like battle going on per se. 12 and 13, you've got the Wall of Champions coming out of it. Why is it called the Wall of Champions? Because drivers power slide in that turn and slap walls. And it was slapped by multiple F1. Every F1 champion has slapped that wall at some point in their career. And then not only that, but where did we see Max? Was Max last year at 6-7? Or was it 8-9? It was one of those two.
I want to say
it was 4.
I want to say it might have been 8-9. No, It might have been 3-4.
So Max is in the lead by
jumps the curb
20 some odd seconds, and he's out driving by himself, having a leisurely drive. Jumps a curb, drifts a little, slides a little, comes on the radio, and is like, I almost took myself out there, boys.
He goes, I almost knocked myself out, and then starts laughing like some kind of evil psychotic genius. And it's the funniest thing.
And it goes to the slow-mo cam of his car getting airborne over the curb.
Meanwhile, everybody else is like, the rear wing looks unsafe. You might want to report that to the stewards or whatever. And everybody's having a super serious race. Which, by the way, we didn't even talk about that in 2023. Alpine had the wiggly rear wing. I can't remember if it was Ocon or Gasly.
That obviously didn't affect Ocon's performance at all. And they didn't do the black and orange flag because he kept going.
But it was just funny to watch.
It was definitely
this thing just jiggling left and right.
That was foreshadowing at Alpine. Hey, next season's going to be a little shaky for you boys.
Jeez.
Speaking of Esteban Ocon, this falls outside of our parameters a little bit. I guess he will officially race in Canada now. Remember, there was a lot of debate in the F1 world about is Ocon going to get replaced for Canada? No, as of the time we are recording this today, it has been announced that Ocon will race the remainder of the 2024 season with Alpine, and then they will part ways after that. We'll do a whole nother episode on that this week. But it seems like he's going to be with the team, so at least that clears that up. Who was their targeted replacement? Was it Mick, or is it somebody else?
The rumor mill is Mick, but nothing has been confirmed.
Who were they saying for Canada? They were saying it might be Mick.
They were saying Mick for Alpine. That was the rumor mill. It wasn't like Alpine was coming out and saying, "Hey, Ocon, watch out,
Mick's coming for you."
Yeah, like no. Do we want to jump to predictions?
Yeah. This one's tough because we're not at the point to where last year Aston had completely fallen off,
right?
And McLaren hadn't recovered yet. So looking at last year doesn't really tell us a lot about the drivers this year. It's really blind, other than maybe saying Max is going to win, but even that's in question now with Charles winning, Lando winning, Carlos winning. Did Checo win this year?
No.
Okay, well we've had more winners than we have in the past year. You want me to kick it off, or you want to do it?
Let's hear what you got.
Okay, so we'll do top 3 and wild card. I didn't put any thought into this until just now.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go first.
I'm not betting against Lando anymore. Wow. Give me Lando in the 1 spot. Give me Max in the 2nd. Give me Oscar in the 3rd spot.
Wow.
Yeah, give me a McLaren podium.
A McLaren Verstappen sandwich.
Jeez, that sounds weird. We'll throw some wild cards at you. Give me a redemption story in Ocon finishing in the top 10.
Wow.
And give me... What's something that's fun? Give me Logan Sargeant to DNF.
Goodness. Hey, maybe there is rain projected for this weekend. Maybe he'll crash out and they'll just not have him race at all. Or maybe Albon will crash and they'll give him Logan's car again.
Yeah, isn't there supposed to be rain like the whole weekend?
Yeah, there's rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Although race day, it's a little iffy on if that will impact the race.
But that doesn't matter because that means the track will be completely fresh even if it's not raining for that one segment.
And
There'll be
cool.
No rubber on the track.
No, it's like 60 degrees, so also it's not going to just evaporate like quickly.
Jeez.
It's not a 100-degree day.
It's going to be a fun weekend.
Okay, my top 3. Give me Verstappen with the win. I feel
back to business.
I feel like Red Bull's just got to be tired of being put in these bad positions the past like 3 weekends. They've got to come out swinging. Give me Verstappen with the win. Number 2, give me Lando. Number 3, give me Charles. I have no idea where anybody's going to fall after that in terms of like Checo or Carlos or the Mercedes. For my wild cards, give me the opposite of the Esteban Ocon redemption story. Give me Esteban Ocon to DNF. Number 2, give me Valtteri Bottas in the points. Ladies and gentlemen, I think he's going to tear it up.
First points of the season.
I would say like top 9 or top 8, but let's not go crazy. Top 10.
Which means 10.
Yeah. All right, give us in the comments your top 10 in a wild card for this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix.
Guys, we could be wrong. Hulkenberg did qualify in 2nd last year. If you think Hulkenberg comes out and wins the Canadian Grand Prix of 2024, I might ride that with you.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye, guys.